Almark, the prodigious son of a respected mercenary in the north, embarks on a 2-year journey to enroll in the magic academy after his father, Raiz, saved the headmaster's life. The north houses monsters, bandits, and fierce battles, all of which Almark survived in his brutal training on the real battlefield. The 9-year-old boy fulfills his father's wishes after learning he has a natural talent for both sword skill and magic, and knows what it means to have friends and meaningful experiences. The son of a mercenary, Almark, had his entrance into the academy delayed by 2 years, while the others had already passed their entrance test. The young warrior fought battles with a blade covered in blood, while his peers studied. War had been stopped for a century now, but the North always had a grim outcome, with ceaseless war and hopeless battles without any stoppage. Most nations were destroyed in the North, and their lives were ruined, so it wasn't long before the mercenaries stepped in to fight in the North. Raiz, the boy's father, was one of these men. Captain Gels accompanied Raiz, and the 3 of them were stationed in the North in the Black Wolf Cavalry, boasting as their military unit. Almark met Jorg at the age of 5. The mercenaries habitually never stayed in a single place, constantly moving from one battlefield to another. At that time, the cavalry advanced through a zone where small battles went on without end. Arriving in the kingdom of Gilbar, Gels found the scenic view relatively peaceful, unlike anything resembling war. Raiz, the more serious type, reminded his fellow mercenaries that they were in the midst of an important mission. If you haven't caught the hint yet, Raiz would be great at parties if he is never in them. The sudden marching of a man caught their visage. An old man who wanted to steal gold was chased down by bandits. Raiz noted that they were mercenaries mixed with bandits, while Gels accounted for their number. With a contemplative face, Raiz analyzed the information they received regarding the Gilbar army. He wondered if they should march on ahead based on that information. The older man gets punished by the younger lads, who are threatening to rob him of his existence. It's unfortunate for them, however, as a slash removes one of the men's heads from his shoulders. This slash has come from the mercenary Raiz, who has struck terror in the eyes of the bandits. With his blood-stained blade, the bandits were forced to retreat. With them defeated, the older man thanked Raiz for saving his life. Raiz thought he shouldn't be thanking them just yet, as the land would soon erupt in a bloodbath of battles. He advised the older man to move to a safer location for his safety. The sleeper squad, consisting of Gels and the others, lazed around until Raiz called them. Raiz announced Wanner's death, and then stated that they should march ahead to spot the Gilba army. His group agreed in congruence, but as they were leaving, Raiz told the older man to wait for a while, until their main unit arrived. He made sure that the older man could continue his solo traveling adventures with his aid. Raiz left the older man, who seemed to have a dissatisfied look on his face. Back at the Black Wolf Cavalry camp, Vice Commander Raiz is annoyed because they've been unsuccessful in spotting the Gilba army. Suddenly, a subordinate relays the information about the older man he told them to pick up. The woman points to his location in the carriage. Raiz decides to check up on the older man and brings him a bowl of soup. The older man felt indebted to his gratitude while sharing a meal. Raiz introduced himself as the vice captain. The older man explained that he was from the Garai Kingdom, a southern nation. He's also the master of the Magic Academy. Raiz takes it as a beautiful joke to laugh at. However, the older man claims he's lost his magic staff, massively hampering his powers. Even then, he performs a miraculous feat by forming a small bird from his hands. Raiz is shocked as he had heard of Nork magic before, and knew that graduating from the Magic Academy would ensure that he would have a successful career. This older man is actually the headmaster of the Nork Academy itself. He decided to give Raiz information regarding the academy and the age limit set for children. The 6-year education period is divided in each school, and they're allowed to stay there as well. Magicians are made within those 6 years, and then another 3 years are used to study advanced arts. Raiz thinks for a moment and asks if the academy seeks candidates with talent. With the headmaster confirming the fact, Raiz tells him about his son, Almark, who is approaching the age of 5 at the current time. The boy's mother is no more, and while he's done everything to raise him, Almark doesn't boast the spirit of a warrior. Since being a mercenary requires one to be tough on the inside, it's hard for him. At this point, it is assumed that if the boy does end up becoming a mercenary in his profession, he'll likely die before even turning 15. Raiz seems to be accepting of this fact, and claims that Almark doesn't have the knack for magic. The headmaster tells him that the boy should be given a chance to live in the south, where there aren't any battles. Hearing this, the cold mercenary captain pleaded with the headmaster to let his son join the academy. The older man comments on how ironic it is for him to be saved, yet his savior bows his head to the other person. the headmaster requests to meet Raiz's son. Following this meeting, Raiz takes him to Almark, a young boy who lights up hearing his dad's call. Almark sees the older man and becomes and acts like a shy magnet to his father. It seems that this kid is at an omega level of social distance from people. The headmaster observes that the boy naturally looks smart to avoid a strong person. He tries to approach Almark calmly and, while resting on his knee, reaches for the boy. Almark is frightened, but his father sets him straight. The headmaster deploys the typical mana deduction, or whatever BS ability that old characters used to judge powers. He finds out that Almark's talent supersedes even the most talented of people. Raiz gets happy hearing such words, while the headmaster claims that Almark should be proficient with his blade in the future, as well as a mercenary in the future. Raiz argues that he doesn't care about the boy's swordsmanship as mental fortitude, and the will to survive is so much more important. Raiz doesn't care about the boy's physical ability nonetheless. The headmaster advises Raiz to admit Almark to the Magic Academy at the age of 9, promising him an excellent future. The happy father agrees and embraces his son as if he had always wanted this outcome for the boy. Near the border, Raiz is thanked for his help once more. The headmaster is looking forward to meeting Almark in the 4 years to come. Several years pass. By this point, Almark has become a skilled swordsman on his own, just like Jorg predicted. Even though Raiz didn't even bother with Almark's training, he practiced and became skilled with his father's blade. His demeanor didn't change, but the boy possessed resolute and determined eyes. When the boy was 8 years of age, an incident occurred, and on that day, the central unit went to fight the cavalry knights, leaving their women undefended. During that time, 2 enemy soldiers decided to attack the base. These warriors managed to take out 5 innocent lives, and thought that the base of the Black Wolf cavalry would surely fall to ruin in their absence. While they were having fun torturing the innocent men, one boy crept up from behind and, without hesitation in his movement, sliced off the man's hand. The man shuddered in pain and disbelief as blood poured out of his hand. Their battle against the cavalry knights concluded in a draw, and after returning, Raiz heard the story of Almark's heroic feat. Gels was so excited about the talent of the boy that he wanted to see him at once, but Raiz emphasized that his son was only 8 years of age, and that it was too early for him. Gels argued against Raiz, stating that if the boy is capable of fighting, then he should participate in the battlefield. I mean, I'm sure he's saying this for practical experience, but for a kid that age, this is gonna be trauma overload. Almark welcomes his father home and asks if he's suffered any injuries. Gels is happier than ever to talk to him about his heroic feat. Raiz, on the other hand, is a little hesitant. The father asks his son to join the battlefield for some hands-on experience, aka stepping into the significant shoes level, because you're about to get your ass kicked training. Winter passed, spring came, unlike most of y'all ex-girlfriends. Almark reached 9 years of age at last. The situation of the mercenaries only got worse, and instead of joining the academy, the boy was forced to survive the harsh battles of the battlefield. Almark lost his second fight, but instead of fluttering through the pages of a book like a nerd, Almark was out here slaying fully grown men like the chat he is. After experiencing a total of 5 major battles, summer had already arrived. Almark had merely become an actual warrior on the battlefield. His father advised him to come with him to the tent. Raiz didn't want his son to stop pursuing the Magic Academy. When they weren't fighting, Raiz would teach him what he could about strategy, as well as writing and basic arithmetic. Almark, like a little sponge, absorbed everything of his father's knowledge no differently than the sword techniques he had learned. Almark's sword training continued just as sharply. Raiz wasn't best pleased about it, but allowed Almark to flourish in his own manner. One fateful day, Almark found himself at the edge of a thorny battle. He was stabbed through the chest and would have lost his life. Through luck, he survived, but couldn't fathom getting up for a whole month. Almark rebelled against his father and desired to become even stronger. Raiz told him that the fights would only get more challenging from this point onwards in the kingdom of Bastia. Raiz emphasized that the boy's life was at stake if he pursued his battles at his current level. He laid out wise words for his son to remember, stating that he would become great, and that becoming a mercenary is a terrible business. He told him about the cruel reality of being discarded, and that Almark should prioritize his thinking instead of relying on him. Instead of becoming great through reading books, Raiz advised him to become a man of greatness through his actions, in order to help people. Goosebumps. The Father of the Year award goes to Raiz. Almark understood his father's words as he told him to say goodbye. Almark came to his friends and bid them farewell. They wished him the best of luck. Gels told him to remain proud as a member of the Black Wolf Cavalry. Receiving everyone's goodbyes, Almark was prepared as they prayed for his safe journey. Almark came to say goodbye to Derek, who thought that the boy possessed talent, helping him in the pursuit of any art. Going through the memories he shared with his family, Almark is ready to set foot. Raiz deems him a skillful warrior, which is why he's not worried about his son's safety. In an act of caution, he gives him a memento from the boy's mother, Shatina. It acted like a good luck charm to protect him. Almark requested his father to take care of the others while he was away. In their final parting, Almark stepped away from Raiz. Arriving in Tork Island, the boy had to traverse the dangerous northern lands and much more. For a boy who is only 9 years of age, the journey was difficult, as well as the harshness of the season. His enemies were starvation, the extremities of the cold, as well as terrifying monsters. Not only that, he could only rely on himself to ensure survival against evil people. In the north, everyone that he met was considered an enemy. Almark had lost battles and hinged at the edge of his life in some of them. He had survived through luck sometimes. Almark had journeyed with various kinds of warriors. It was also the time he realized the sad reality that the people who worked closest with him almost always betrayed him in the end. That's why he became cynical with a broken heart and possessed the ability to decipher which person would be trusted from another. After crossing the Maboba Strait, spring was already in session. Almark survived winters in the terrible north. These plains served as a revitalizing sensation for the boy, who was raised in the north. The peacefulness of the terrain and a life without war were both foreign concepts to him before entering the plains. The boy exchanged a few items for money and was asked where he had journeyed from. The shopkeepers were shocked and amazed at the boy's ability to travel from the north. At night, he stayed at an inn, finding the people to be very considerate and kind. He had never thought of traveling as a fun adventure beforehand. Almark crossed the age of 10, arriving at the Continental Trade Department. He had now faced a desperate problem, the lack of resources and money. The rest of his journey continued with barely anything on him. During one of the nights, Almark stayed in a forest. The winter in the south wasn't perceived any differently by him than in the north. Gazing at the beautiful yet clear night sky in a graveyard of stars, Almark had learned how to spark conversation by himself. But it wasn't like the schizophrenic voices that you guys hear with your non-existent girlfriends. Don't worry. With the seasons overlapping, spring was in session. Almark took on a few jobs to earn money. Tork Island was near him more than ever. Working to earn the fare was essential to the boy. Almark arrived on Tork Island, at last, asking for directions to the Academy of Magic. The kind lady directed him to the Academy ground, and claimed that a good chunk of the island comprised it. Almark spotted a tower and couldn't comprehend it. He wandered to find the main gate, and realized that the Godzilla-sized gate before him was actually the main gate itself. Almark received a guard, and was told that he wanted to see the headmaster as he had come from the north. The guard reacted rather harshly, thinking of his request as a joke, as he claimed the headmaster told him nothing about the matter. Almark urged that he refused to return, as he was invited by headmaster York to study as a student. The guard is taken by surprise by the boy's knowledge of York. He contemplates for a moment and spots the boy's ragged outfit before coming to a decision. He takes him to the headmaster's office and even introduces him to the main building of the academy. The main building houses elementary students for 3 years. Almark had never seen anything like it. The man told him that the principal's office was also located nearby. Climbing the stairs, Almark stepped forth to the principal's office. The man requested his sword for security purposes. Almark handed him his blade, the weight of which was so heavy that the man staggered for a moment. He told York that a boy had come to see him before entering his office. The person in front of his eyes is the same old man that his father, Raiz, had saved all those years ago. York introduced himself as the headmaster and asked for the boy's name. The man told him that he brought the boy because he knew of York's name. Almark introduced himself by name. That name echoed in the old headmaster's mind until he realized that he was the son of the vice captain. Hearing that Almark came from the Black Wolf Cavalry, the man shuddered. York couldn't believe that Almark had finally come. Almark confirmed that his father did indeed help out York. Almark is told to draw nearer for a closer inspection. York observed that he's 11 and asked what took the boy so long. He had a million questions to ask in a hurry. Almark told him that he was incapable of answering them all at once. York settled down and asked from the beginning about the cavalry and the war. Almark confirmed that both were worsening over time. York found it tragic that the battle against the Abyss King would require every last ounce of strength. Almark had never heard of the Abyss King before. York refuses to delve into the matter and finds it amazing how the boy has grown. He asks Almark if he has heard of the name Gilfin Magic Defense Corps before. Almark confirms that he has. The group is unique as after the success of Gruda, the Sorcerer of Ashes, the southern magicians came to the north. There were a few who couldn't survive in the harsh environment of the north, but Gilfin succeeded. The headmaster states that he refused to allow the misuse of magic from the south. Almark can't follow his point. Jorg tells him that it's a kind of entrance exam, and that they've forbidden the northern students from entering or enrolling. Jorg questions the kind of future Almark would create after learning magic. He wonders if the boy, too, will end up like Gilfin and misuse the power. After pondering for a moment, the boy claims that he will indeed return to the north. Drawing wisdom from the journey he has had, the boy claims that he saw paradises in the south. He wants the same kind of peaceful paradise for the people in the north, as that is his greatest desire and the reason to return. Jorg is struck colorless hearing this admission from the boy. He proudly welcomes Almark to the Magic Academy. Exiting the headmaster's office, Almark meets Jeed, who laughs because he has never seen the headmaster given such trouble. Jeed is a homie who wants to cover Almark's needs in the meantime. Almark introduces himself as such and retrieves his heavy blade. It's funny to think that this boy is basically a demon slayer at his age. Jeed directs him to the dorms and claims that he must do something before entering. Jeed thinks that the boy has lost common sense for having traveled so much that he smells like doo-doo water. Almark finishes up with his bath, where Jed informs him to wear his uniform, as classes without them are not possible. Jeed states that he's heard the treatment of the people in the north, and that there isn't anything like that in the south. Almark believes that only a handful of people genuinely enjoy the act of killing. Jeed wraps him up in his cape, all nice and warm, letting this murder potato act all drippy with his style. Almark thanks Jeed, who is curious about his mercenary status. He feels like he's dealing with a noble warrior. Jeed learns that the boy walked all the way to the south without any assistance. Arriving at the dormitories, Almark is astonished to see the giant structure. Jeed explains that the dormitory's design is based on a vacation home. 100 students live in the mansion, which has 4 floors each. Almark thinks that the mansion runs mostly empty with that quantity. He asks if he's also living there. Jeed confirms that the elementary students reside in the exact location, and that everyone in the building attends classes. They head into the office to meet the superintendent of the building. Jeed runs a disclaimer that she's a noisy yet good person. Jeed asks for Ms. Maya, who tells him to enter the room. Arriving inside, a room without any person in sight awaits them. Almark has no idea what's going on, and thinks that she must be using invisibility magic. Well, the boy's expectations are shattered to pieces when he spots the midget-looking granny just below his knees. Jeed greets her while Almark does the same. Maya takes a good look at the boy and openly expresses her disinterest. She gives him a really rough introduction to his routine and even drops a diss track on how he looks. The granny has no chill. Jeed takes Almark's dorm room keys and gives it to him. After leaving the room, Jeed wonders what's wrong. Almark tells him that he didn't have much growing up, so he's still dazzled over the cape he received from Jeed. Jeed accommodates the boy and brings him to his room. The other rooms are for 2 people, but Almark is lucky enough to have his own. He's got nothing but this room for the year. Almark comments that it's pretty nice and states that he has only a sword as his luggage. Almark returns the cloak and thanks Jeed, who wants to bring the boy his uniform for later. Jeed recommends he take off his current clothes as they're abhorrent with their smell. The boy takes his shirt off, revealing a fit body with a scar on his chest. Jeed recognizes the harshness of the boy's journey and seems to be startled. He tells Almark to rest while he provides him with food. Jeed states that he'll be in the cafeteria for a while and leaves. Almark glances at the view outside the window to see fellow students of the academy. He hopes to make friends and thinks of himself as strange as the other kids who are not like him. Having arrived here, the boy feels that his pain and suffering have perhaps come to a stop. He thinks that a life with fruitful experiences truly awaits him in the Nork Academy of Magic. The scene switches to the terror in the north. A battle of cavalries is underway. In this battle, Almark finds himself immobilized, as he is incapable of moving. With impending death approaching him, he tries to regain control over his body. The boy wakes up from the nightmarish dream that he just had. He falls down to his bed and remembers where he is. The dream that he saw recalled one of his past experiences. He fought the Iron Knight of Zales and found himself defeated and destroyed until his father saved him. The grass that restrained his body was actually a form of magic that stopped him. Raiz in particular hated magic being deployed in battlefields, which is why right after the fight, Raiz instructed his team to cut down any foe as fast as one can if they used magic. Almark inspects his sword and recalls the pendant that he received from his father. He had secured it inside his sword's scabbard. Almark thinks that the only way he'll lose is either by losing the sword or the pendant, which means that he died. He carries the longsword of his father and the pendant of his mother. Both of his parents have laid down their lives for the boy. Having felt a feeling of gratuity, the boy thanks his parents. Jeed, with an energetic expression, greets the boy and realizes that he's out here inner monologuing because of protagonist stuff. Jeed tells him that he brought some breakfast. Almark enjoys the meal and tells Jeed that he would like to wash his face. Jeed directs him to the bathroom located around the dormitory. He brings the boy his uniform. Almark imagines what it would be like to sit in the cafeteria with the others. However, that Delulu Land dream is just a dream, because he's the final boss of introverts to these guys. Almark spots a girl sitting by the well. Donning black hair, she washes her face and asks for the boy's name. She realizes that Almark is the transfer student who has been talked about among other students. Transfer students are rare, so the others were expecting someone super strong, but Almark looks average at most. Almark doesn't think much of the remark and asks for the girl's name. Julia Cugin introduces herself. Almark is curious why she's alone out here by herself. Julia claims that Maya might cause her some trouble if she discovers Julia's absence. Julia recommends that he ask the other students questions if he needs them. Jeed welcomes him back after inspecting the boy's sword. Jeed wonders if it's a special blade of some kind, but Almark thinks it's just a regular sword. Observing the boy's tired look, Jeed learns from him that Almark met Julia. Jeed realizes that she must have been hard on him for the first experience. It is the worst possible outcome, in fact. Jeed thinks that Wendy would have treated her nicely. As they're discussing this, the sound of bells startles Jeed because he realizes they're late. He tells Almark to prepare his uniform and rush to the school's building. The boy does as he is told and dons his black robe, which honestly looks like the coolest mage outfit ever. Almark and Jeed are on their way when the boy muses how magicians adopted a reputation of being terrible people. Raiz wanted the boy to learn magic, so it shocked him at first. The boy thought after honing his skill with the sword, things would be different. He couldn't visualize a life without following the footsteps of his father. Raiz refused to let go of his ideal for the boy. He wanted him to learn magic and requested that he stop being a mercenary despite the boy's desires. Almark always wanted to impress his father, making him proud of his accomplishments. Even now, Almark believes that he's the son of a brave man and hopes to showcase his bravery to all. But now, things are different. He viewed magic differently, as the people in the south differed from those in the north. Following Jeed's guidance, Almark decided that he would become a magician. On their way, Almark mentions that he's never been to school before. Jeed thinks that it'll be fun for the boy. They come to a stop when Almark states that Jeed has something on his mind. Jeed finds a way to put into words what he means. He explained that his father's job might give him a bad reputation in front of the students. The South has been a peaceful land for a century, and the only battles ever taking place are against the monsters. That's why people look down on the mercenaries as some kind of group of horrifying savages. Jeed apologizes for scaring him and saying rude things. While there are a few who think otherwise, there are many who might judge him for it. While Almark has his concerns, Jeed tells him that the people in the south superstitiously believed that those in the north are maniacs, killing each other for little to no reason at all. Almark reflects that Jeed is exactly right, as he has seen the experience with his very own eyes. He doesn't want war, but at the same time, doesn't sit right with their line of thinking. The boy responds that he is the brave son of the mercenary Raiz, unafraid of what is to come. Jeed thinks that he has been handed a really difficult job looking over the boy. It's obvious that Almark would face difficulty hiding his father's profession. At the same time, if he does reveal it, the experience will isolate him completely at the royal institution. Even when it comes to Almark's entrance documents, his father's profession is intentionally listed as a blacksmith. Jeed tells him that he'll face difficulty if he refuses to change. Almark remembers his father's words about relying on his own skill instead of others. Facing frustration and internal turmoil, the boy refuses to forgive anyone mocking his father. At the same time, he learned through his journey how futile following one's emotions can be. He apologizes to his father and decides to follow suit with Jeed's advice to not say anything about his father. Jeed is glad and takes him to the school's entrance. There, the homeroom teacher, Miss Fior, awaits them. Fior kindly introduces herself to the new transfer student. Almark is left at her disposal, while Jeed instructs him to come to him if he needs something. Fior takes him to the third floor and explains the class program. Almark is going to participate in a 3-year elementary program in one class. He'll learn the basic education and techniques, and in his final year, he'll have fostered some mastery over magic. The teacher is already aware of the boy's natural aptitude for magic and wants to cooperate with him. She explains that their class has a pairing system, and now they'll finally have 16 students to make 8 pairs. Almark enters his classroom. 4 notable students catch his eye. Fjord greets the class and introduces Almark as their newest member. Seeing an empty seat in the distance, the boy wonders if his seat would be next to a noble. Almark introduces himself in kind and reveals where he came from, as he thought it was a wise thing to do. Wendy, a happy girl, greets Almark as his seat is right next to hers. After a brief lecture in class, the teacher leaves everyone to their own company. Immediately after the class ended, the transfer student is swarmed by his fellow classmates, who hoard him with a dozen questions. Almark slowly explains that he's just a typical commoner from the north and that his father is a blacksmith. He maintains the excuse that they were traveling, making his admission late into the academy. Morgan is especially intrigued by how far deep in the north the boy came from. All of them grow astonished when they realize that Almark is way deep into the north. Almark even tells them that he traveled by foot, shocking each of the kids. He requests to be introduced to others as well. Morgan is the son of a woodcutter and relates to him because of their similar traits. Nelson's father is a knight attendant in a foreign kingdom. Norish and Lily are roommates with their own talents. Lastly, the happy girl Wendy Bahab is the big-shot daughter of the prominent Bahab family. She's a noble in the nobles, basically. As they're playing around in conversation, the stuck-up but hurt student, Tork Seife, thinks that they're causing much noise. He thinks that the commoner boy doesn't deserve an audience with the rest of the nobles, and promptly takes his leave. Wendy explains that their next class is practical magic, which is to be taken in a different location. Tork makes fun of the newcomer after learning that he can't even produce a single spell. He calls Almark a burden and thinks that he'll disappoint the rest. Morgan fills Almark with the annoying, flaunting noble who is full of himself. Tork's excellence stems from both martial arts and magic, making him quite formidable. However, the strongest martial artist in their class is actually the representative, Wallace. The scene switches to the magic practice area. In the hall, the gloomy teacher, who looks like a cousin of Johann Liebert from Monster, tells them to light their lamps without the wand. Seeing the spectacle of magic unfolding before his eyes, Almark reflects that the people here refine their magic techniques compared to the north. He believes they're all prodigies in the academy. Their teacher takes note of the new transfer student and even offers him extra lessons after school. At the end of their session, the teacher notes that the students faltered in their concentration because they all wanted to impress the newcomer. They transition the training to practice with wands. The practice staff before them are to be used for this purpose. Almark doesn't know what's happening. Wendy explains that they'll be using wind magic primarily for stone carving. Almark still doesn't know what's going on, as he observes a student crack open the stone with a smack of the staff. Almark sees Morgan and Norish struggling, but the rest are mostly fine. One particular student catches his eye. He notices that this student doesn't seem to be doing anything when, in fact, he is drawing a carving on the stone. The boy seems to be tapping into an advanced technique from the rest. He is Wallace, and Wallace needs a Snickers to give him an angry look on their first encounter. The butthurt, Akea Tork, comes along and tries to ridicule Almark by testing the boy's natural aptitude for magic. He demonstrates how things are done by coaching him on how to sense and channel the magic power within the body. Tork is incredibly disapproving of Almark's existence in the academy. The stone is chipped upon the impact of his staff. Next up is Almark's turn, who is getting bored with a visual presentation. Almark does the same and channels the magic from his fingers to his staff. He smacks the staff on top of the stone, but it does nothing. Tork laughs at him like a madman for being such a failure that he couldn't even dent the rock a bit. Then he reminds Almark that he's just an obstacle, a thorn in their way. Almark is starting to comprehend his threats and questions if he views him as an enemy. Tork tells him Almark's background is shady and that he doesn't find him pleasing. Almark thinks they're both similar in a way, but his words infuriate Tork, who reminds him of their difference in ranks. Tork rants about the cruelties of the world and how every student in the academy arrived at the age of 9 after bidding farewell to their families. Everyone except the 11-year-old, who was 2 years too late and needed assistance. What this dumbass doesn't know is that Almark literally and figuratively survived the worst of the worst. Tork's yapping comes to an end as he leaves after calling Almark a waste of space to invest time with. Almark, on the other hand, thinks that it was a petty attempt to provoke the boy so that he could have a reason to attack. Almark has seen many such attempts on the battlefield and considers it child's play. Wendy reminds him that he was called by Elmies, the class teacher, for his after-school sessions. She even offers her own help if he needs help with training. Morgan catches up to them and joins in on the fun. Almark is grateful to both of his new friends and hopes to catch up to them. After everyone leaves the room, it is revealed that the stone split in half as a result of Almark's immense magical power. During lunch, Almark is seen to be eating quickly because he doesn't take his time to enjoy food. With their afternoon classes ended, the boy meets Elmies, who promises to teach him special lessons. Elmies helped relocate him to another room and asked if he required a staff or robe to use magic. Almark responded that the magicians typically carried a staff and the students wore robes, so he wondered if they were both necessary to use magic. Elmies learns that Almark saw magicians on his way to the academy. Elmies reminds the boy to forget every single thing that he has ever known about magicians up to this point, as it is inconsequential. Elmies dives deep into the essence of the magicians, which is held tightly in what they exercise inconspicuously. Elmies tells him that he won't be using a staff for the magic spells. Almark is confused as to why they wear robes and carry staff. Praising the boy's intellect, his teacher responds that he might be too smart in a way. He tells him to practice meditation to refine his magical power. At night, Almark meets up with his friends Morgan and Nelson. They wanted to escort him safely to his room because Wendy was worried he'd get lost. Morgan is hungry, while Almark thinks that he should quickly memorize his classmates' names. Almark stepped inside his room and sensed the magic power flowing within. It seems as if a mass of flowing water soothes him, but Almark isn't certain of the feeling. During the time he's spent on his journey, the boy has learned to talk to himself. His days to follow were filled with busy and confusing classes. Wendy aided him in his knowledge, but Almark needed to expand his knowledge. He spent his time at the library to catch up with the others and meditated as well. Elmies often accompanies the boy during his meditation. Almark wanted to meditate in silence instead of in the company of his friends. He believes that he isn't desperate for help. Many days flew by. The academy has one off day for the students after 10 days of class. A day before the holiday, something happened. When they were practicing light magic, Almark reflected that he learned only meditation from Elmies, who also told him to use his imagination during magic. Elmies demonstrates creating a light breeze that is strong enough to shake the tree. Almark observes his classmates doing the same, though Tork particularly struggles with control. Wendy and Julia are natural magicians, excelling at their craft. Their personalities contrast with each other, and yet they possess nearly the same skills. Almark is thinking about Wallace, who is also minding his own business. He hasn't yet spoken to the boy, and always seems to ignore him every time Almark tries to gain closer. It's as if he's being avoided by Wallace. Morgan told him that he was the son of a noble, though he was unsure who. While lost in his thoughts, Almark tries again to conspire and channel the magic energy of a flame in his hand. Finally, something happens. The flame does manifest in his hand, catching the attention of even Elmies. Almark is happy, because this is the first of his magical spells. His confidence turns into a double-edged sword as the flames erupt from his hand, causing a column of fire and terrifying the other students. Witnessing the event from afar, Elmies is unfazed and thinks that it is as expected. Waking up from his slumber, the boy finds himself at the infirmary. He's greeted by a headache as well as his teacher. Elmies states that he's released the magic power from his body. He tells the boy that what he used wasn't actually light magic, but rather the dragon flame, a destructive magic attack that reduces enemies to ashes. The boy is shocked and asks about his classmates' health. Elmies explains that no one was injured, thankfully. Elmies explains that his powers haven't received proper training. The boy explains that he had imagined the image of a light magic. Elmies explains that the spell is quite draining, and if it was used by someone with low magic power, it could have resulted in death. Elmies praises the boy's intellect, but thinks that he fails when it comes to understanding magic differently. Almark realizes that he grew arrogant and stepped ahead of his capabilities. Elmies tells him to continue with his meditation training and rest in the meantime. Almark receives a drink from the nurse, which revitalizes some of his lost magic powers. The nurse reminds him that he's not going to be escaping his rest. Almark thinks on his own and realizes that the class should be over by now. He's curious about his friends, who actually jump him on sight after meeting him. Wendy is curious about his health. Almark apologizes for causing them to worry, while Nelson thinks that it's normal for things to happen this way. Almark apologizes for putting them in danger. Each of his friends confess that they've all done something weird for failing at magic in the past. Tork was actually a victim of Lily this one time. She incinerated the dude's hair. What a queen. However, Norrish thinks that no one has ever been capable of producing such a column of fire. Wendy knows that Almark is focusing on meditation in the meantime, and asks if she could be of help. Almark feels grateful for having such nice friends, and apologizes that he won't be able to go out with them because of his rest. His friends bid him farewell. Almark refuses to betray his friends, and informs them beforehand. Almark finds Julia, who is fed up with him for using powers outside of his control. She pulled the race card and called him a monkey, channeling her inner Suguru Gido. Julia left, requesting that he wouldn't cause more trouble for the class. The following day, Almark is resting in his bed when he finds Wendy, who has brought him a surplus of books for some classwork. Almark thinks that she's wasting her day off on someone like him. Wendy takes her time and teaches him everything. After sharing lunch, Almark questioned why she was so kind to him. Wendy answered that it was only natural for her to help someone who needed help. Almark is puzzled for a bit. Wendy tells him that on his first day, Tork treated him unfairly because of them. The class decided that they would protect their newest friend. Almark is utterly starstruck because of Wendy's dedication to him. He had only thought of protecting himself and, as such, was able to traverse such a distance. Almark is curious why Tork picks him as the target every time. Wendy explains that their class houses 4 nobles because of their surnames, while the remaining 4 are all commoners. There are only a handful of nobles in their class, so Tork is annoyed that he gets to be in a class where there aren't many like him. Tork has always hated commoners, to begin with, something Wendy greatly dislikes. She thinks that social status didn't mean anything before magic came. Wendy demonstrates that magic power is equal for all, which is why she desires to change classes. However, she couldn't do much. But when Almark joined their class, she thought of him as someone amazing. She met his eyes for the first time and had a strange feeling, a feeling that the boy was capable of changing their class. Wendy wanted to help him so that he could become someone capable of making the change. She apologizes for speaking ill of Tork. Almark reflects that not only is he not interested in switching classes, but he also has so much study material to take care of. Wendy cries without explanation. Almark internalizes how kind she has been, how forthcoming she has treated him. He wants to repay the debt someday. The boy remembers a conversation he shared with his father, who told him that a mercenary always repays kindness. Heeding his father's words, Almark confirms with Wendy about the martial arts class. Wendy states that it will be Almark's first experience. With a rather grim expression on his face, Almark insists that she call him Almark without honorifics. Wendy is startled at once before spotting a contrast in his tone, as he promises to repay her for her gratitude. The following day, Wendy begs Almark to stop. A serious Almark tells Tork that he'll leave the school if he loses, but if he does win, Tork will basically have to become his slave. Almark taunts Tork, provoking him to accept the bet. A few moments before, Almark absolutely smashed this guy. They were preparing for the martial arts class. Tork called him a damn barbarian for having no manners and speaking pointlessly. Tork's pride hinges on martial arts, which is why he takes the craft so seriously. Their teacher, Bowen, is the martial arts instructor and notices Almark. He tells Almark to observe for a while. The first fight is Wendy against Julia. Almark isn't used to thin blades or rapiers. He thinks they're way too thin to be used in actual combat, and wonders if there were any fighters in the north who used such a weapon. The boy realizes that what he's seeing isn't even a real battle, so they're just using the weapon as education. He's like, "Get on my level, punks." Wallace seems to be as dominant as ever, defeating anyone who comes his way. In the girls' case, Wendy faces tough competition against Julia. They're both good, but Julia edged out a moment faster and defeated Wendy. They both have mutual respect for each other and find their matches entertaining. Tork drops the rapier in front of the boy and brings him over. Almark is standing on business and tells him that he'll decide if he's strong. Tork just wants him to leave. Almark tells him that there won't be any such thing. Tork thinks that Almark is getting ahead of himself, while the boy argues that those in the north are not barbarians. Tork claims that the mercenaries are lowly bandits, a comment that ticks off Almark quite a bit. Tork gears up to be Almark's opponent. Almark receives armor from Tork's friend. Their fight is about to begin. Tork is out here shit-talking him down for not even being able to use magic. He calls Almark a barbarian to infuriate him. Almark states that the school officially accepted him. Tork has his own rules and wants to take him down. Their battle begins, and Tork is shaken by Almark's fast reflexes. Almark sizes the noble down for being so weak and acting so tough. Almark wants to provoke Tork, as he has been waiting for this moment. With the teacher having no intention of stepping in, the rest are all focused on their fight. Almark is ready to repay Wendy. As for Wallace, he is curious about his identity. Almark proceeds to talk crap about the noble, who is all bark but rarely any bite. Tork takes the bait and tries to attack him. Almark performs the cleanest evade with that ultra instinct level of dodge. He dodges every single attack, shocking everyone in his class. In a brief moment, Tork is overwhelmed and easily defeated with a single strike. Morgan and the others are impressed, but Tork does not accept this defeat. Almark uses this as an opportunity to make a bet, placing heavy stakes in the battle. Almark's condition for winning is for Tork to permanently stop his discrimination against the commoners. Almark then provokes Tork to accept the bet. Almark welcomes round 2 of the fight. Tork repeats the same expression, but it doesn't matter much to his opponent. Almark genuinely thinks that it's going to be pointless. Tork is frustrated because his opponent is someone who doesn't leave any openings. Within a step, Almark strikes Tork with such ferocity that he launches him flying. Tork lands on the ground, unable to comprehend what took place just moments prior. The figure approaching him grabs him by the collar and declares his victory. Almark tells this stuck-up to swear on his promise. Sensing his hesitation, Almark roars at him to honor the name of the Seyfe family by living up to the promise he made. After a silence, Tork finally concedes the battle and swears on the promise. With that, everything is settled. Almark receives congratulations and admiration from his friends. Wendy cries, realizing that he has done so much for her. Almark is happy, while Wallace quietly observes him. Bowen intervenes as their instructor to find a resolution to their battle. First, he talks about the essence of martial arts and its role in war. Second, he believes that while Tork's initial ideas were right, infusing hatred upon them was wrong. He also couldn't respect anyone he fights with, which is why he turned out the way he was. Tork is told to reflect on his actions. As for Almark, despite winning, Bowen isn't proud that Almark used sneaky tactics, like manipulation and provocation to bait his opponent. He thinks that it's too far for him to do so. Even though Almark's methods were wrong, his goal in the end was correct. Bowen is glad, but he's annoyed that his class was used to settle their dispute. As a result, he punishes Almark by assigning him cleaning duties for the martial arts arena. Wendy and the others also help him. Bowen thinks that it's a little unfair. Bowen tells Almark to visit the principal's office after school. Almark does as he is told, and meets Principal Jorg after a while. They talk about his life at the academy and the circumstances that followed. Almark tells him everything, while the older man listens and chuckles. He's a fossil with a foot in the grave, what else can he do anyway? Almark tells him that he's been helped by precious friends, and couldn't do everything on his own. The headmaster gives him crucial advice: never neglect his friends. There's the problem of funds. The students are always given a small amount of money each month for their spending. Almark doesn't require much of anything, and hasn't touched it. Jorg wants to help the boy whenever at the time of need. Almark leaves and finds his friends outside the building. They were concerned that something had happened. Almark laughed and told them that it had nothing to do with the punishment. Nelson is annoyed at Morgan for sizing up the matter. Later, Almark notes that Tork's arrogant side hasn't faded by much, and that he remains unaffected by the matter for the most part. The bet is still in effect, so he isn't doing much. The atmosphere of the class hasn't been influenced a lot. They hear Morgan's crafty story of how he got intimidated by a shadowy figure. Almark is curious because of the monsters. Nelson explains that there aren't any in the north, and that they haven't seen any at all. Wendy asks if the boy is worried. Almark explains that he's seen many creatures in the north, so he's cautioned by them. Wendy wants to hear his stories. Almark basically experiences a flashback of his horrid battles, while saying he doesn't have anything special to remember. After their class, Almark finds himself exhausted. He sees Lily by herself and decides to follow her. Finding Lily in a worried expression, Almark explains that it's dangerous to venture at night. Lily confesses that she's lost something precious to her. It's only a handkerchief, but of incredible value. Almark finds it unreasonable and tells her to find the handkerchief tomorrow. Lily embarrassingly confesses that she can't sleep without her handkerchief. Almark totally wasn't expecting that. The handkerchief is a treasured item she has kept from her parents after entering the academy. It's the only way she finds it soothing to sleep. Almark thinks that it's normal for people to have important things, like he has his pendant that he definitely would have searched for in the forest. The both of them decide to cooperate in this handkerchief operation.